A few months back, I did a video called My Stack Catch Up, and that was an attempt for me to kind of show the pieces that I had picked up for my stack for the first quarter of this year. I kind of figured that I would start doing one kind of on a seasonal basis, a quarterly basis. Most of the things that I pick up aren't really worth making an entire video about. So I asked my subscribers, and you may be one of them, if I should instead just kind of do kind of an update every once in a while to kind of show some of the pieces that I've picked up over the last maybe couple of months. And the results were overwhelming. Everybody was really in favor of that. So that's what that first one was. If you are new to the channel, my name is Dub C. I want to thank you for being here for this stack catch-up for the summer of this year. This will be the second stack catch-up that I do this year. And I want to thank you for joining me. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, become part of this community. If you are one of my returning subscribers, what can I say but thank you guys, as always, for being with me here again. So the first one was really nice. I think the response to it was overwhelmingly positive, and I really appreciate that. Like I said, I don't really want to do a video for every single piece that I pick up. I pick up some strange things once in a while. In fact, let's be honest, most of my stack is pretty bizarre, but it's not really the kind of thing that I really wanted to do a video about each and every single little piece that I pick up. To me, that just gets to be a little bit tedious. So I figured I'd just do these quarterly updates, and maybe you've seen some of these pieces before, maybe you've seen them appear if they were part of a larger purchase. Some of these pieces I know you haven't seen yet, and there are still several pieces that I've picked up in the last 2 quarters that you haven't seen and you won't see yet because they are parts of videos that are coming up. But let's get into it. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dub C, and I do like to begin each of my videos with a simple disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to give you any kind of financial advice. I'm simply trying to share some of my experience having bought and sold precious metals and rare coins for the last 30 or 40 years. And, you know, we're all kind of passionate about these things, precious metals, and sometimes you can hear the excitement in my voice, and sometimes I just kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse. So bear with me. If some of these things seem familiar, I guarantee you that at least a couple of these pieces you haven't seen yet, and they should be pretty interesting. So if you saw that last stack catch-up, I recorded that one in kind of late April, and then I released it in early May. So if we're going January, February, March, that's really when I should have done the first one of these. It didn't even really occur to me to do it till then. So if this seems like it's maybe a little bit earlier, I'm just trying to get kind of back on that quarterly schedule. So January, February, March, April, May, June, and that's why this one is coming out in July. Hopefully you are seeing this one in July. I hope that you're seeing this one in July. And then the next ones will follow every 3 months until I run out of things to buy or I just don't have anything interesting to show you. But I think this is going to be kind of fun. That last one, I included the 3 Silvertown bars. There was an Engelhard 7th Series bar. There was that really impressive San Francisco mint bar from the 1930s or early 1940s. That piece became kind of the highlight of my precious metal stack, and I suspect it probably always will be. And I'll put a link down below to several of the videos where we talk about these things. So if you do want to take a deeper dive rather than just kind of seeing this overview, I'll encourage you to go ahead and click on those videos also. So there is a link down below to that first stack catch-up that was released a couple months back. This one is dominated by the new hoard that I picked up called the Springfield Hoard, and I did put out a couple of videos about that. We'll go into that in just a moment, but I kind of want to do this chronologically so you can see my thought process as these pieces appeared. Believe me, I wasn't expecting to pick up this many pieces in this quarter, and laying these pieces out, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed. I'm starting to think that maybe I've got some form of a habit, and I should probably not be making videos about this, right? The first one is this Engelhard standard commercial bar. It's a 1st or 2nd series. You've probably seen these before. These are a popular bar. These were popular in the 1980s. And I have a pretty nice stack of these. Why on earth would I have bought these? Well, I actually happened to have a little cash in my pocket that day, and I wasn't really thinking about it. But more importantly, when I saw this bar, the vinyl pouch that this came in was so perfect. It's not brittle at all. It's still supple. It's done a fantastic job of protecting this bar. And I just kind of figured now's an opportunity, right? If these bars are starting to increase in value, and they certainly seem to be doing that, I should probably go ahead and snag this while I had the opportunity. You know, that's part of the problem of hindsight, is that I had no idea what was on the horizon. I thought that this was just a typical day going to a local shop. So this second series bar, the mintage on these about 450,000. So this is not at all a scarce bar. This is one of Engelhard's largest mintages for any bar of any size. I know they had some 1 ounces that went above 1 million. But that bar was just in such flawless, pristine condition. I know I harp on and on about those original surfaces and original packaging, but you start to build kind of a nice stack when you pay attention to those things. So when I saw this, I shelled out the money, and I thought that that would probably be one of the few things that I bought in silver this month. Boy, was I wrong. So the next thing was the Springfield Hoard. Now, again, I'll put the links to those videos down below. I believe that there are 2 of them. These were part of an estate that came in over a couple of weeks. One of the heirs to the estate brought in their group of bars. Actually, I think it was one of their siblings. And then they were so happy with results, they brought in their own personal part of that estate. So it was one sibling bringing in their bars first, and then realizing that that person had gotten such a great deal from my dealer, that they went ahead and brought in their stuff second, and very, very closely on the heels of it. And I was not expecting it. And the kicker is that we still think that there's some other bars out there. So we may not have seen the end of this. And that's what this is all right here. The Springfield Hoard, named after a road that the heir, or the actual person who had these bars, who had collected these bars in the 1980s, lived. That's kind of why I came up with the name of Springfield Hoard. So what we're looking at here is a series of Engelhard. These are all P prefix bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that were in this original group. 5 of these poured P prefix bars. If you're scoring at home, these are all 7th series bars. And I've talked about that. Series is just the name that allengelhard.com gives to different bars that were made at a different time, a specific time. So they go from different series so that they can tell them apart, so the collectors can tell them apart. That's what I mean when I'm saying series. This is a 7th series bar, and we know that because of that small space between the 2nd and the 3rd 9. There was originally a period there for 99.9% pure, and they dropped that period out, so now it's just 99 space 9. That's how we know this is a 7th series. But what was beautiful about these bars, and they're often called waffle back bars, that's why this entire group had beautiful original surfaces on it, and almost all the bars that were included in this original batch from the Springfield Hoard had those fantastic cooling lines. That is really exceptional. That sets these bars apart and really makes them beautiful. So there were 5 of those bars in that original purchase from the Springfield Hoard. Lots of those serial numbers were really close, and I go into serial numbers probably deeper than I should in the Springfield Hoard videos. Just one more thing to look for. If you're trying to decide between the different styles of bars, if you're trying to decide, to pick up a couple of them and you can't really come up with any reason why one is better than the other, I look at serial numbers. The more interesting serial numbers, those to me are one of the factors that I look for and can make the determination between leaving a bar behind and picking it up. So that original group was all of those Engelhard bars. There was this beautiful Silvertown bar, if I can even get to it. This is one of those original bars that Silvertown made in the 1970s. Beautiful surfaces. This is just a fantastic example of one of these early Silvertown bars, and we know that, of course, because of the way that they spelled fine here, and also the serial number. Silvertown made 75,000 bars originally when they first started striking these silver bars, and this is one of them. So now I find myself becoming a Silvertown collector. Isn't that strange? A company that I'd never really collected in the past. All of a sudden, I have a burgeoning collection of vintage Silvertown bars. These 2 Weschler bars that I picked up in that original group, unusual, but they are that kind of nice ingot-style bar. They've got really cool serial numbers on them, pretty low mintage. We don't know a whole lot about who Weschler was. And I said in the videos about it that it looked like a W and M to me. Some people said it's a W-E-M. I'm starting to lean to the W-E-M, and we think that that might mean Weschler Manufacturing Enterprises. I believe that's, so it's almost kind of a monogram, and that's why it looks kind of strange. That's why it looks like it says W and M. So maybe it is W-E-M after all. Or W-M-E, I suppose would be the correct way to say it. I picked up 2 of these bars from this original Hoard. I'd never seen them before. Now they are part of my permanent collection. as are all of these bars. Moving along, there was one Engelhard bar that was one of the 11th series bars, and we know that that's a slightly different, a slightly later series, and I always like to compare these two. The 11th series bar, kind of a manufactured with a rounded top to it. You see that? So sometimes we call these pillow top bars. Not so for this 7th and 10th series bar. This is a 7th series bar, of course. Very similar looking bars, but the 11th series came a little bit later. And I'm not a huge fan of the 11th series bars, but when you find a piece that is that beautiful and that kind of beautiful original condition that hasn't been messed with at all, I felt like this was an appropriate piece to add to that stack from that original group from the Springfield Hoard also. And I had a little bit of extra money, so I kind of had allocated that money to buy silver, so I figured, what the heck, I'd go ahead and buy it, because we didn't know when the second group of bars from this Springfield Hoard was going to emerge, and then it actually showed up, I think, before I even got done premiering the video about the first part of the Springfield Hoard. So that was the first part. The second part, a little bit more interesting. There were a little bit more things to pick from. That included this kind of neat, my only example of an Academy bar. This is an older poured bar from Academy, a smaller bar. This is really the smallest bar that was even in the Springfield Hoard. Every other bar that was in there that I can think of right now at the top of my head, and we're talking about probably 100, 150 bars, maybe even more. They were all 10-ounce bars, except for that little Academy bar. It's 4.8 something, I believe, 4.86, so it's by far the smallest bar. And if you happen to catch my video on found money, I actually used the money that I got back from my state comptroller's office to purchase that Academy silver bar. And I'll put a link to that down below too, because I thought that was kind of a fun thing to do, encouraging you to go out and try to find some money and put it into precious metals, put it into your stack if you can afford to. I don't want to take food off of anybody's table. I don't want to take any gas out of your tank if you need it, but it's kind of nice to be able to have some money that's not already allocated to pay for bills, and instead you get to go kind of crazy. So I bought a vintage Academy silver bar, my first Academy bar, at least the first that I can remember, and it's definitely one of the oldest ones that I have. There were also in this group the Engelhard 2nd Series Canadian bar. I won't bother picking it up, but you see it here. We talked about it a little bit. Tri-State Refining bar. This is probably my favorite bar out of this entire hoard of all the bars that I picked up. And I mentioned in that original video that we call this a picture frame style, that raised edge all the way around the outside. Tri-State Refining Company. So the initials that tell us when this bar was made, because it did change names a little bit during its process, during the years that it was in operation. So we can peg this one down pretty close. And I have still yet to find another example of this Kit Kat style. That's what we call these, because they look like a Kit Kat candy bar, right? A Kit Kat style ingot with a little bit of a sprue grind right here with this picture frame style. It's a really unusual bar. You can find TSRC bars out there. You can find bars that are even the Kit Kat style, but I still haven't been able to discover another one that's got that picture frame. So I'm not saying it's unique, but it's certainly unusual. Let's put it that way. And then the last bar from this entire hoard that I picked up was this really big chunky boy, this PMP bar. A very unusual bar. I've done a little bit of extra research on this one since I first videoed this one. Only 5 or 6 that I could find across the entire internet, and I'm pretty good at Googling stuff, so I'm starting to think that this might be a really scarce bar. This is one of the biggest bars. This is the biggest bar from that entire hoard at 12.93 troy ounces. This bar is pretty massive, and it's just got all sorts of fun things going for it too. So while I like it, I think I'm probably still a little bit more TSRC. Let me know which one of those you prefer. Which one do you like better? So, exhausting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right about 130 troy ounces, not including this bar that I had bought because I didn't see that this huge calamity of silver bars was heading right towards me. And I'm very grateful that I was able to pick them up. I'm very grateful to my dealer for allowing me to kind of pick through them and get the first choice of these bars. It's not easy to come up with that kind of cash that quickly. Sometimes that really leaves a hole in your wallet, but this was a pretty nice group to pick up. So we're, what, 140 troy ounces, somewhere in there, give or take, in the last couple of months. Come on now, that's not easy to do. That's some pretty heavy lifting. I am glad that I have these pieces, though. So next on the list, we finally done with the Springfield Hoard. I suspect that there are still more bars out there from this hoard. I'm expecting them to show up any day now. Really, I am. And then kind of capping it off, it's kind of fun that we went from one of the commercial, the more the higher mintage Engelhard silver bars, the later Engelhard silver bars at the beginning, then this massive hoard of vintage bars in the middle. And then I popped into the same dealer probably 2 weeks after all of this had happened, and they had this bar sitting there, and they were convinced that I didn't want it. But of course, I mean, how are you going to pass that up? This too is a 7th series bar. Again, there's that little gap there. This one is just a little bit, you know, it doesn't have much tone to it, but there's a reason for that, I think. This one had been in just a Ziploc bag, and a really tight-fitting Ziploc bag. I mean, this bar barely fit in it. And that's the kind of thing that you see sometimes. People will put a coin or a bar into a bag, and it does a pretty nice job of protecting it over time. These bars came out in the late 1970s. I suspect that's probably been in that Ziploc bag from the 1980s or 1990s. And it did a really good job of protecting it, keeping it from getting any kind of tarnish or tone to it. Now, the rest of these bars all have what I would consider to be what you would expect a silver bar that's 40 years old or older to have a little bit of tone starting to appear on it. Sometimes they get a little bit more tone than others. And ordinarily, I probably would have been like, you know, it almost looked like it's been cleaned, so I'm going to pass on it. But this bar was so pristine because it had been protected that I went ahead and snapped it up also. So, wow, way too much silver, right? This is crazy. This is way too much for 1 quarter for sure. I really need to dial it back. And I say that knowing exactly what comes next, because once I had finished buying all of these bars, I had an opportunity to stop in another store, and they had gotten in some silver art bars. Now, I am super thrilled to see the way that art bars have started to kind of pick up. When I was a kid, they were just forgotten. Nobody wanted them. You couldn't get rid of them. Dealers couldn't sell them. Most of the time, dealers were selling them at a discount just to get rid of them. And that was only the dealers who weren't just immediately chucking them right into those melt buckets so they could be shipped off. There was a bloodbath in art bars in the middle of the 1980s, all the way up probably through the middle of the 1990s. And then it looks like an entire generation didn't even know that those things existed. I'm so happy to see that those survivors are starting to kind of spark the imagination of stackers. You know, not every one of them is exciting. The ones that deal with things like Spiro Agnew, not the most thrilling thing in the world, especially if you're a younger stacker. But there are some that have some interesting historical events, and there is some beautiful artwork on some of these pieces. And I think a lot of those holiday bars, especially the Halloween bars, if you've got a good quality Halloween bar, especially if it's an early one from a good mint, keep it. That is a good piece. So when I saw these bars lying in a counter, I was immediately drawn to this one. This one is an enameled bar, and I have only had a couple of enameled art bars, and I don't have any of them right now. So I snagged this one when I had the opportunity to. I thought it was really cool. It says Merry Christmas. When I got it home, I realized it was 1986. I thought that this was probably an earlier bar. I hadn't even really been paying attention to it. There's a good piece of advice. If you're going to go into a coin shop and you're going to drop some money, pay attention to what you're buying. So this is a 1986, and I thought, oh, you know, that's not even included in art bars, right? These are things that came so much later. The original art bars, produced by tons of mints across the country in the early 1970s. They really started to appear about 1970, and by 1975, they were all but gone. They weren't even a thing anymore. So this was a really short-lived thing. Just a way for people to buy silver, but it had interesting themes to it. There were birthday bars and holiday bars and political bars and everything else you can think of. But then they kind of disappeared. And like I said, they became very uncollected. These were things that nobody even wanted. So 1986, I thought, well, it's too late now. I've already bought it, right? What the heck? Took it back home and researched it and realized that even though this is an 86 and it's really probably not considered part of that original run of art bars, if you're a purist, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is still a really good bar. And what makes this one really interesting, and one of the reasons why I probably shouldn't complain about it too much, is you can see the writing on it here, 1 troy ounce 999 TM. That hallmark right there probably stands for the mint. How is that for an original name for a company putting out art bars? Just the mint. But you can see right here, the serial number is 041. That's a very low mintage. Now, there are several different varieties of this bar. This is not the most common one that I was able to find. That was these bars made as kind of premiums given out to people that were supporters of a business called SMI. So you can research these, you can find other examples online, but I think this is a little bit more of a scarce variety, and the fact that it's got that low serial number, hey, here's me talking about serial numbers again. I like low serial numbers. Anytime you see a 0 something, that's probably a pretty good indication that this is a low number. 41's a pretty low mintage. I think that this had a mintage of 200. So this is a pretty scarce variety. Even though it is a 1986, the enameling is in flawless condition. That's another thing to be careful of. Don't buy something that's all chipped and cracked and busted. This one seems to be in absolutely a fantastic condition with a low serial number. And 1986, you're still talking about something that was, what, 40 years ago? So this is still a pretty old bar. These do sell for a premium when you can find them. I did just fine paying melt for this one. It's actually worth considerably more than that, but part of my permanent stack probably, just because I don't have any other examples of enameled art bars in my stack currently. So let me know what you think about that one. And I know that Silver Supplement, he's another one of my fellow YouTube content creators in this field, the precious metals and rare coins field, has been talking about art bars quite a bit recently. I'm going to go ahead and tag Silver Supplement. Maybe he can look this up in one of his catalogs and let me know what the catalog number is, or the KID number is for this bar. I'd be interested to find that out. What else do we have? We're coming to the end of the road for this quarter, and believe me, I am exhausted, and so is my wallet. But this is one thing that I actually shot a video about a couple days ago, and hopefully you've already seen that video. That video is coming out before the video that you're currently watching. This is a 1979 to 1989 10-year anniversary of the gold maple leaf coin. And the Canadian Mint put out a couple of different sets that celebrated that achievement. But all of these pieces are beautiful proof condition. The 1 troy ounce silver proof maple leaf, I don't have another one of those, so it's kind of neat to pick this up. The 1/10 ounce gold maple leaf in proof. And the reason I bought this set in the first place was actually for this 1/10 troy ounce platinum maple leaf. So this is a beautiful set in beautiful condition. If you've seen that video, you know that I'm going to go on and on and on about how original this set was and how important that was to me in my decision. And I will put a link to that video once this video has aired, so I'm not giving away too much of the story. But that is essentially the end of this run of precious metals that I bought in the last couple of months, with one exception. And that exception is this group of old school 2x2s that you see here. This was a selection of Mexican Republic 8 reales that one of my dealers happened to get in with a big collection of world coins, and they allowed me to paw through it and look at it. And I pulled a few others out besides the ones that you're looking at here. Most of those pieces seem to be cleaned, and I am not a fan of clean coins. But these pieces are the kinds of pieces that I don't really mind if they've been knocked around a little bit. If you have watched the Stacking Mexican Silver video series, you have seen me comment on the 8 reales, especially of the Mexican Republic and earlier, the Spanish colonial pieces. I actually say in that video, for the Spanish colonial pieces, I don't mind if they're scratched. I don't mind if they have chop marks. I don't mind if they have holes all the way through them. I don't even mind if they've been cleaned at least a little bit. But these all seem to be kind of good condition coins that had suffered from being cleaned. And based on the condition of the 2x2s and that price that you see there, that was the original price that this individual paid for it, $7.50. So this piece was probably purchased in the 1970s, maybe early to mid 1980s. And it's possible that these pieces had been cleaned before they were stuck in this 2x2s. So I don't really mind that much, but I will be doing a video about these pieces a little bit later when I cleaned them. And I'm going to actually film myself cleaning these pieces. Before you clutch your pearls, I do kind of know what I'm doing, and I want you to pay attention to exactly how I treat these pieces. And that way you will know what I think is market acceptable in the preservation of these 100, 150, 170-year-old coins. It's going to be an interesting video, and I hope you will keep your eyes open for that one. So there we go, the second quarterly update of this year, when I'm already neck deep in silver, I still managed to pick up 150 something odd ounces of silver, even at these inflated prices. When you see those videos from other YouTubers saying, is it too expensive to buy silver? My answer is always, of course it is. Who would be buying silver at these prices? I guess I am, and I guess I probably have a serious problem that probably needs some kind of psychological help. So if you have any questions about these pieces, by all means, leave a question down below. I'd love to hear your comments. What is your favorite from this group, from this quarter? If you are interested in taking a deeper dive into these, I will put a link down below to those videos so you can watch them. Keep your eyes open for this video when it comes out. I think it's going to be a really interesting video, and maybe a little bit controversial. If you have suggestions or comments, other videos that you'd like to see me make, or video series even, leave that comment down below. I'll be happy to consider it, see if I've got the expertise and the information and the examples so we can make a video or video series based on your suggestion, and I will give you a big shout out if that is the case. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, by all means, please click on that subscription button. We would love to grow this. I see that we are starting to inch very, very slowly towards that 4,000 subscriber mark. That would be something, wouldn't it? And I would love to see this community of folks who are interested in things that I have to share with you and that are keen on sharing ideas back with me. That give and take is really exciting. I'm glad to have a part of it, and I'm glad that you're sitting there watching this video. Thank you so much again for being here. And as always, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as we go deeper into the world of coins and physical precious metals.